All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Awesome Radio, 107.5 WECU, 1570 on your AM dial and 107.5 on your FM dial. That's right. We're the Christian media with a spirit of excellence. And we welcome you today to Let's Talk Real Life with Miss Nada Manning. I'm your co host, Vernon Garrison. Coach Vernon Garrison is here to help bring an awesome subject for you today. I hope you receive the information well. It might hit you in the chest, it might hit you in your heart, but I kind of want to just put it in your hand and expose it to you. The subject that we have for you today. Please join us on Awesome Radio Facebook, Awesome Radio YouTube, GPAT 23, Local Access Channel, YouTube, and Facebook. And welcome to those who are listening on the air at 107.5 FM. All right, without a doubt or without a delay, ladies and gentlemen, here is Miss Nada Manning. How are you? How are you?
Hi. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to wherever you are. We are here once again to bring to you some hopefully helpful information as we move forward with talking real life issues. And yes, this is an interesting topic, and hopefully it'll catch you. It's called All in One. All in One. Now, that's going to have a few subtopics that fall under all in one, and you're going to say, well, what in the world, all in one? Okay, all in one ties into different roles in our lives, all in one. Each one of us, as we grow in this blessed life that we have different challenges, different talents, which kind of categorize that all in one topic. All in one, for example, you can be uh, uh, not playing, but actually being in different roles in your life. Um, you can be a grandmom, you can be a wife, you can be a auntie, you can be a sibling, you can be a co-worker, all in one. So we want to talk about the grandma role of being, as I tie it into pulling together. Pulling together, uh, for the most part, for many families, not all families, but for many families, grandma and grandpa, if they're both there in the household, is what we call the glue that holds the family together. Pulling together, in that we will um, fall off the way off the grid, as one can say, because we fall into our own thoughts and our own talents and our own I want to do this, that, the other. So it creates a problem in some areas of our lives, and that's why I titled this All in One. It can be one household, all in one household. All in one talent is in one person, as I just said. So let's particularly talk about the grandmom and grandparents, period. Grandparent role when we have controversies going on in a household or in a family, period, whether it's in the household or not. I want to talk about her role. Now, I want to look at it because we are a spiritual station. I want to look at grandmom as, like I said, the glue that holds it together, grandma and grandpa. But grandma and grandpa, especially grandmom, because we are the loving creatures that God has made us to be as women, we have a tendency at some point in our lives, some of us pray a lot. And many people in the family or in the household, whether it be cousins, aunties, uncles, look to the grandmama to pray when they get in a situation. If they know that she is a praying person, then she is going to pray And they're depending on that prayer from that person, that grandparent, to make everything all right, make everything come resolved, everything back to normal, everybody's happy again. So they look to her. She is the go-to person, if you will, in the household. Grandmom's role, grandpop's role. So we want to that all of that ties into pulling together after she finished praying, and the way she prayed and the way she bring the word about, it has a tendency to bring a wake up call to many of the listeners in the household. Coach, you have a comment?
Yeah, that is a great note to emphasize grandma's matriarch position in a family. It's a position of power. It's a position of influence. Note, I believe that grandma also exemplified, those that rite of passage that she had. She prayed, and we are know our grandmother for feeding large families, or being able to reprimand somebody at a family reunion, or being a staple, helping everybody manage their emotions, applying discipline to the family. Grandmother is definitely a prayer warrior, an action figure, a superhero at the same time. If anything, when I met my grandmother, she didn't talk very much. But one thing about it, without a lot of words, I felt her power and her authority. And in a lot of senses, I could see her whole life on her face. I don't know how to describe it, but I knew that she made things happen. And I never saw my mom disagree with her. I never saw my mom disrespect her. In fact, I never saw anybody oppose her in any way. So that's my first round there. I'm going to chat a little bit about this, grandma's position in a moment. I was looking up something on my tablet, but she was an action figure, much like I wish most of us were today. I know we got activists, but I'm going to just say this and I'll give it back to you. There's power in prayer, and God has given us power, and he's not given us a spirit of fear. But when we face things in life today, somebody's got to take a leadership role. A lot of people do a lot of talking, but that leadership role, that foundation that I saw in my grandmother, she pretty much was everybody's mama. So that was a position of power, and I'd like to see more men stand up and take that position. And nothing against prayer. I want to see the prayer. I'm assuming you are already prayed and equipped and got God's weaponry when you come out of the house, and we're about to meet up to go on a mission, to start a business, to go and visit with city and county government. I'm thinking you already done it. I try to pray in my head. I try to pray vocally, but I'm not going to take any more away from grandmother. But symbolically, she was the sheriff.
Yeah. And that is a tall order to have for grandmothers. And I think I heard you say we don't want to take anything away from granddaddy, but I think grandmothers seem to have more of a pull, more. Somewhere I heard somebody say at some point that women, for the most part, seem to have more power than a lot of us realize. And I recently heard that on the radio as well about the power of a woman, and uh, the wisdom in that is that as grandparents, we want to have grown to the point where we can use that power very productively and following the way the Lord wants us to live and lead, because we are leaders. Now, I believe you mentioned something about your grandmom, in the sense of many of us in today's time, many of the grandmothers today, somewhere along the line, have missed the mark. Not everybody, but some grandmothers today have missed the mark on being that go-to person to uplift the grandchildren or whoever's in the household. Not taking anything away from them, because maybe they weren't given the opportunity as they grew up. So some of them only do what they know. So that's not taking away anything from the grandmoms that are not in the wisdom realm, so to speak, of being a real grandmom, because it takes a lot to be a real grandparent, period, as it is with a parent. So that pulling together part is what's very, very critical in our community today. Pulling together and staying together and supporting one another. As prayer warriors, that can be anybody's role. That's not necessarily just grandma. A prayer warrior can be anybody. It can be a young person, a teenager for that matter. I mean, there's no respect of person who can be a real prayer warrior. It's the effectiveness of what's being said that can get the attention of the listeners who are trying to learn something from prayer.
Let me say this before we go too far. I like getting in trouble too. I'm gonna say this just to open up and grab your attention. I don't think women are leaders. I think the position that God gave Eve was very, very defined. And I think that it's probably, I don't want to say probably, more powerful than the man's position, because he said, and a lot of, I'm going to say you, but I don't mean in a negative way. I guess a lot of ladies have not read that. I'm just being facetious. Have not embellished that. But when he said it's not good for man to be alone, to me, when I read it, I can read it all day, and I'm gonna come up at the end that nothing I do is gonna work without a woman. Nothing that a man does that I'm just using myself for example is going to work without a woman. So whether I am the spokesperson, whether I am considered the leader, whether a woman is considered some type of weaker vessel, I don't know if you're just talking about that physically, but what a woman is, she is the spirit of a man, the spirit of a house, the spirit of the earth. Because we all, men, we look to our mother, we look to our, the second person or the next woman we look to would probably be our spouse if we choose to get married. So look at what happens when you can call a man a leader. You can call him a strong man of God. You can call him whatever you want. But when you call him and you catch him in his power, it is not without a woman somewhere in the mix. So you don't have to mention grandma right by herself and say, oh, she was a leader. She was a strong alpha woman. The accolades that I just gave, because in the back of my mind, I already know. I heard my grandma beat the mess out of my papa. They called him Papa. He went and sold some peaches down the road to another lady. Yeah, he went and sold the peaches. that he had picked. I think they were early or whatever. He went and sold them, and he came back, but he didn't share the money. And next thing you know, my mom walked in on grandma beating him down with some kind of cane stick or some cane pole or something they had. And they had an orchard, so they had plenty more to come. He just violated. So I don't have to call a woman a leader to know what she is to the earth and to know the position of power that God put her in. I just say, you ought to know that if God said he made man in his image, then there's something about me that's pretty interesting. So you got to be careful when you're talking to a man of God. There's something there. It ain't got nothing to do with me. But you might just want to figure if there's somewhere, and I've been looking in the mirror trying to find it. Where is God in my facial structure or in my shoulders or in my something? And I can see I'm getting a hint about my spirit. But when it comes to me being who I am and the earth being what it is and the house being what it is, I'd say a woman, she don't lead. She's another type of creator. She creates human beings. Okay, let's use that for starters. There ain't nothing gonna happen with my seed if this woman ain't there to pick it up. And you can argue about a bunch of dudes around here that want to be or feel like that they are, I'm sorry, my phone ringing, that feel like they are ladies. You can argue all day long. I don't have to argue because I know they ain't having no baby. It ain't so. And I don't see it for happening in the future. So it's not an argument to me how you feel like and who you feel like you are. And it won't be an argument. It wasn't an argument for my son. Because he just had it, gave me my first granddaughter. So no explanation needed. The power of a woman that is in her position. The last thing I'll say, I've been single for 4 years, and one of the major things that nobody, and I'm revealing it on this show first, that not, I'm gonna slang the word, not near woman in or around my life right now have said about me being single. And that is, I get a chance to know a woman, not to mention coming out of an unhealthy status. Everybody trying to call me. I'm sorry, y'all. Out of an unhealthy status with a woman, I have had the opportunity to have brilliant relationships with women that are very, very productive. And I don't have to take out the trash. I don't have to say we're going to live here or where the child is going to school at, or are you going to have another child, or how much the light bill is, or I think you're catching on now. I haven't had the privilege of taking care of and obligating myself to provide to anyone, though I do to my friends and the people that I love. I do help as much as I can. But my point is this, when it comes to the woman, I've had very healthy relationships that are productive, back and forth. You do this, I'll do this. Great friendships that are very, very mutually beneficial and healthy for me. And I have been able to see the more miracles, especially looking at the film side of a woman and looking at her angelical side, if you will. I haven't had to deal with too much of the angry side of the woman. I've had a break from that, thank God. And I'm being just as true. I don't think I've taken a shortcut because I'm not the reason I'm out here. I might be the reason I'm staying out here, but I have not had to deal with the woman that is, what they say, is better to dwell in the rooftop than in the house with an angry woman. I have not. If somebody want to get the scripture and read that one right, the anger of a woman is supposed to be compared to, the worst of anything on earth. And I haven't had to do that. So I have been privileged, though, to see the best of some great women. I have three women business partners. I've seen the best. I've seen the best of some great friends like yourself. I've seen the best, and I continue to see more. So that's what I have to say about a woman and this all-in-one that you're referring to, because you're one of them, and you are a path maker yourself. And I gotta say, God have done some things for women that, yeah, men should just follow suit. And then maybe it'll be reciprocal. And when the dude opens the door to his vision, the lady will say, okay, I got to drop what I'm doing. I got to follow him because, nothing that she's going to do is going to stand without his approval. So, yeah. All right. I'm going to stop rambling now.
I had a question for you, but you talked so long, I forgot what the question was.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's okay.
I've never said that before, but that's what I enjoy. So I was wondering when I was going to say something about that, and I just found the moment.
Something about what?
Oh, when I was talking about the position that I'm in my life as a some people would call it bachelor. I haven't looked up the word yet. And saying the difference between a bachelor and an eligible bachelor. I'm right now not an eligible bachelor, but if I have to look up the definition, I will. But I know I'm a bachelor. But that's the point of view that I have. I've learned more about my mother. Filled in a lot of spaces from when I was growing up, but having the time to sit down and talk to her and wait and wait and wait. Say, Mom, what about this? Mom, what about that? And it finally comes out what was going on in her mind. So then I could see.
And that's where all-in-one come in. You saw a lot in your mother in that one person, all in one. This and that and the other and this and that. And the list goes on and on and on. To each woman, I think there's a different list. Some are longer than others when you're saying all in one. That means that woman is well, we're talking about women, but we're talking about grandmoms, but I think it can apply to men as well. And that's going to be my next subtopic here is about the men's role in this all-in-one stuff. And you hit on a lot of it in your comments just now about the man himself and his position. I just want to say that it is my opinion, my personal opinion, when it comes to families or households, communities, churches, groups, period. Men have a very, very critical role in the lives of youth, young people.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't stop it at just the young people, but see, the young people are the ones that are most impressionable. Now, grown-ups are impressionable too, believe it or not. I mean, some of us don't grow up until whenever. Some of us never grow up. So we are impressed our whole life. We're talking real life here, folks. Let's talk real life. I am your host, Nada Manning, talking with co-host Vernon Garrison as we talk about this all-in-one stuff as it pertains to our lives on a daily basis. And right now we want to focus on the man's role. Men's role, I believe there are various groups around the world, actually, where there are men groups, just men. And they all have different what I want to call it, different areas that they're focusing on. Some focus on feeding the hungry. Some focus on a little bit of this and a little bit of that instead of just one thing. But I'm saying all of this to say that a man's voice, especially in our younger men, I believe that a man's voice makes the world of difference as opposed to the mother. Now, we gave some kudos to the moms and the grandmoms, but let's talk about the men and the granddaddies. They have, it's just something about their mannerism, their voice. Recently had an encounter with a very dear friend of mine who, was observing the relationship between this group of men and boys in one session. And there's always one, there's always one, whether it's a male or female, there's always one that's going to go contrary to everybody else. They don't want to do, they don't want to cooperate, they don't want to say nothing, they are late. And so when they are in a group and they get to talking, those men have a tendency to be most effective when it comes to straightening that young man out, straightening him out and showing him how to be a man. I believe, although society have some of us that are playing the mom and the dad, but I believe that the effectiveness of the man to that young man is better than any woman could give him. I can say the same thing to my son and turn around and let his daddy or my brother or my uncle or some male in the family say the same thing to him, and it means that it's completely different. It just affects him differently. So guys, you all need to know, as I stress more here lately, that your input is critical. You can motivate, women can motivate too, but that man can motivate differently. And this individual that I was talking about was saying that this young boy was trying to be irate, and somebody said, well, just let him go. Let him go. Don't even try to stop him. Let him go on out there. That's what a man would say. Now, a mother would say, well, now, wait a minute. Give him a chance. The man is saying, nope, let him go. He grown. Let him go on out there. He'll find his way. So that's not being mean. It's being firm, I think. It's letting helping that boy to grow up. That's what I'm thinking. The man's role, and that's just a tip of the iceberg of what the man's role is in different ones' life. Now, men can do the same thing with the daughters. It's not just the boys. It can be with the girls as well. The girls need a daddy. Because why? Daddy can show us girls how a man is supposed to treat us. Hello? Daddy can say, let me be the first one to take you on your date at 15 or 16 years old. Let me take you to your sweet 16 party. I'll be your date. So I can show you how a man or a young man is supposed to treat you, opening the door for you, getting you flowers sometime, or getting you a box of candy, or whatever it is, little memento, those little things, so that she can grow up to look for those things and look for that in a man when she get ready to get with one. Marry them, be boyfriend, girlfriend, the man's role. All in one.
Let me jump right there.
Yes.
I think it's a problem. The problem you're trying to solve is a problem that you created just so you can look good to solve it. I think that I'm going to give you an example. I'm doing a lot of storytelling today because I was getting my coaching class yesterday, and I didn't tell a good story, so I got to tell stories today. I'm in there holding my granddaughter who was just born hours before, and she started crying. who do you think, and I held her for a long time, so who do you think I gave the baby to for comforting when I couldn't comfort her?
You want me to answer?
Question?
Oh,
Yes.
when you couldn't comfort her as her granddaddy, the first instinct would be to give the baby back to its mother. But in order for that baby to get
Who did I give the baby back to? You starting to preach my sermon. Who did I give the baby to?
I like to think you gave it to the baby's daddy.
I did. And most people that answered that question, you already know my trickery, said, oh, you gave it to the mom. Well, of course I didn't. She's the one that's going to be there all the time. She's going to be holding the baby, either breastfeeding them, giving them milk. But dad has to be in her life from the very beginning, accepting his responsibility and leading her right away as a comforter. So you've taken a job description from a man and rewrote the job description saying, oh, that's my child. No, that's not your child. If I go and put a watermelon seed in the ground outside and the watermelon comes out of the ground, whose watermelon is it?
Oh.
It's my watermelon. The ground just gave it to me. I'm gonna eat that watermelon. So a man's seed, a woman bears it. Okay. Now, if you want men to take responsibility for their children, say that's yours. That's your baby. If you leave, you taking that baby with you. You're not gonna let me have a child by myself, and then you're going to just dance off and go out there and have yourself a good time in your life. And then I got to take you to court and but no, if you start that narrative with this your son, what are you talking about? Then I might treat it like a car. I'm going to be at the car wash every weekend washing it. Hey, I got me a boy here. I got me a girl here. And the thing is, it's impossible to leave that child. But we've put it on the table. You can go. You ain't taking the kids, though. You just created that narrative of whether I can leave you and take the kids with me. You just created that narrative that creates deadbeat fathers. So now you're going to say, oh, well, you can't come see the baby. That's a non-factor. The child is mine. The courts are all giving the children to the mamas. That baby is not yours. That baby, my son is my son. I grew that watermelon. So back to what you were just saying. No wonder when I speak, that child will find that God in me that I've been looking for between looking in the mirror and me. Like, where's God in this thing? How am I in his image? Well, maybe it's in my voice. Maybe it's in my spirit. Maybe it's in my hormones, my pheromones, if men got pheromones, whatever it is. Maybe that's in me that way. And that child at the right timing can hear it, see it, feel it, and taste it. Unlike when they need you, they got the software that draws them to you as mother. But I think we got it twisted on the man side. And now we're like, men don't know what they're doing. They're not emotionally intelligent enough. They are not good to marry. Why? Because the women are raising them for the most part, and they're not getting the masculine software. But then you raising a bunch of ladies. All right, I'm going to hush up. We're raising men as single parents with a lot of feminine energy, even when there's a dad in the home. Now the girls are growing up saying, there ain't no men to marry. Where the men at? When your auntie and your cousin and your friends down the street, they raising up beta men and turning around and saying, men ain't no good. Look at what you just did there. That's gaslighting.
Well, okay. All in one, folks. All in one. There are different ways of becoming all in one. Some of it is positive, some of it is negative. But I think we are all, each one of us individually, have several traits, several um, talents, like I said earlier in the show, where we can categorize it as being all in one. Some of it is better than others, some of it is not so good at all. But then that's what makes us. That's what makes us who we are. How do we use this all in one stuff? There are different opportunities out there, and it's a gazillion of them to use because we all have something to offer. Let's talk about crying men. Some people feel as though crying men are weak. I say that there is a dependency there. It depends on why the man is crying, which will determine whether he's weak or not. That's my personal opinion. And I also want to say on a positive side, when we women see men that cry, we feel as though they care. We feel as though they're concerned enough to drop a tear for us. All of us, men and women, need to be felt or treated as though we matter. All of us want to matter. And I think matter should be in a positive manner. Men that don't cry at all ever, I think personally, they are holding emotions in that only they know about and don't want anybody else to see it or know it. So they don't show any type of emotion. And that right there to me does not help any type of relationship, whether it's father-daughter, father-son. No, they shouldn't be boo-hooing all the time like some of us women do. But nothing. It depends on the circumstance as to whether men should cry. Now, young boys, because I remember my brothers and my grandfather would tell them, boys don't cry. And so my brothers would look at me because I was the oldest, still am the oldest. So as a girl, I would cry, but I was not a cry baby like that. I didn't cry like that of any little thing. But, well, why is it okay for Nada to cry and we can't cry? So grandparents, to my knowledge, all they could say was, especially granddaddy, boys don't cry. You're showing a sign of weakness when you cry. Well, aren't the girls going to be showing some weakness too when they cry? Well, that's what girls do. That's the kind of responses they would get. So these boys, not just my brothers, and today, by the way, I don't think I've seen one of them cry, and I don't know when. But they're grown men now with children, grandchildren, and children of their own. So when a situation occurs in a young man's life, and it touches him in such a manner because he can be touched, he has feelings too, and it touches him in such a manner where it just hits home and it cuts kind of deep. So he drop a tear or two. They don't be boo-hooing like some girls do, but what's wrong with dropping a tear or two here and there? You can get caught up in stuff. Grown men. You get caught up in stuff. And if you have, to me now, if you have any kind of heart at all to care about what you've done or what you've said or a person going through some stuff, It is nothing wrong with giving them a hug. Your eyes may water, drop, get full of water, something, maybe the tear won't fall. But what is wrong with that? It's letting that individual know that you care about them, that you do have a heart, and it's genuine. I don't see anything wrong with that. But there are some men out here that feel as though, that no, you're a man up. You don't need to be crying. What's the problem? You too soft.
Well, I don't think
people take advantage. Some people think that and I have to agree, there are times when sometimes these men and these young boys, they get taken advantage of because they're showing that they're going to cry at every little thing. Well, I say you cry when it is, in other words, control your tears. Try to control what you're crying about. And if you cry in private, at least you crying and you don't want nobody to see it, okay. But at some point, if you get married or fall in love with somebody that really care about your mom, where you really, really are attached to her, and you mean to tell me you're not going to cry when your mom is sick or not feeling good or has passed away, you're not going to cry because you were told men don't cry. No, I don't agree with that. That is not, no.
I don't think that they say that now. Okay. Crying though, and I grew up hearing sort of things like that. Crying is a couple of things, I believe. I'm trying to do the reasoning in my head. Crying is when you feel pain, and it's a reaction your body has to pain, injury.
Yes.
Okay. That's crying there.
Yeah.
Crying is also an emotional response to your feelings.
Yeah.
Your sympathetic nervous system, if you will, is an involuntary type thing. When you're stressed, your body has a physiological response. That's why you don't have to turn on your tears. They'll come on by themselves. But I'm not a doctor or a psychologist or psychiatrist.
Oh, no.
But
You're using all
I know that it happens involuntarily. Now, that's where you get the control. If a person is got to sneeze, I heard on the internet the other day, you can start humming and it will contradict the sneeze reflex. So if you feel like you're about to cry, what do? Because it's something that happens. Now we have a social construct of a man in the macho status that he is supposed to display. Okay, now that machoism is based on what culture you live in. It's based on what culture you live in America, based on what part of the country you live in, where men cry or men don't. What I'm saying is this. Let me just read this scripture right here. It is for Galatians 5:1, since we're talking about men. Galatians 5:1. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm. Then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. That's a decree right there that you are standing firm to protect yourself from the things that can happen on this earth, and also spiritual things that can put you into slavery. What you look like crying and standing firm at the same time. So you will immediately get your marching orders to stand and protect your family, to stand and protect the cause from the snares of this world. What you look like standing there crying, a cry that there's a couple of times you can cry when you feel when you feel the emotions and it's overwhelming, you put your head down and you can cry. But when you got a purpose, when you got a job to do, you can cry then. Your eyes will water up because you're mad, because you're angry, but you still have the strength to stand on that scripture that I just read to protect you. So there is a time and a place, and those that get picked on for crying are either crying all the time. But somebody that get crying mad, those are some of the times you gotta watch out. Don't go mess with somebody that's crying mad because they stomping their feet. They're on the way to the house. They done quit playing the game with you. So you might want to leave them alone. If they run in there and shut the door and slam it, you better think twice before you bust open that door and say, look, some people you can shake them out of that spell. But I'm just saying there's a time that I can cry, and there's a time that I should be about business.
Absolutely. And I said earlier, it depends. When it comes to crying men, it depends on what they're crying about.
Yes.
Yeah. It depends. But to say that a man should not cry at all, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think I ain't heard that in a long time.
Well, yeah. Stop your crying.
I feel you though. Nobody ever told me that. And I cried on this platform before. Nobody ever told me I shouldn't cry because I think if somebody did tell you that, they just are saying that you don't know who you are. And so you should just stop being a baby. I think the people who cry the most are not the ones who are crying tears. We just whining all the time. I'd rather see a grown man cry than hear him whine. It's cold out here. I'm doing this and I always got to work. I'd rather hear somebody cry than whine.
Yeah, in that sense, yeah. Okay.
I'm a whiner. I know. I catch myself. Oh, let me shut up. Let me just get this done. So I'd rather hear the crying than somebody say, yeah, I'm ready to go. You ready to go? Yeah, we've been here for a long time. Yeah, I know we were gonna stay till 12 o'clock, but I just thought of something I could be doing. And they sitting there keeping right on going. Sitting there, they might well just say, you shouldn't even invited them. Because they just, they're screeching just like a baby cry right in your ear. And so, babies, huh?
And so those are the ones that you eliminate next time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because you already know what they are about. So to avoid all of that, and then when they ask you, well, why you didn't tell me about such and such a thing, that event over there that happened a couple of weeks ago? How come because that's your opportunity right then to let them know. Sometimes, do you think maybe they don't realize how bad they sound when they're complaining all the time? I don't know. It's something to think about.
I'll take you fishing, but I'm not guaranteed that you'll be fishing. You may not bite that day. The art is I took you fishing.
Right.
We're going to enjoy this peace and quiet. And if you can't find the headspace to do that, then
don't go.
Okay. We better drive separate vehicles because I can sit there and hold that fishing pole and just, I can work it out. And then when I'm ready to go, I'm done. But 30 minutes after you get there and you ain't caught a fish, well, where they at? The fish went to church. I don't know where they at. They somewhere in there.
So we want to, we're winding down. I think we have maybe about another 5 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
5, 6, 7 minutes. So I think we already talked about a little bit on this support group part and how the environment is a difference. Various environments make a difference. We already talked about that for sure because we just finished saying it depends. When I'm talking about all in one, you can be all in one if and when it depends on certain things, being all in one. And I hope I'm not sounding confusing to a lot of people out there, because you know the all-in-one in itself. What does that? I think I said this earlier. The all-in-one is when you are being different things. You're this, you're that, you're the other. You know, the go-to person.
You're a Swiss Army knife.
Okay.
You got a fork up there. You got a pair of scissors.
Yeah. Let's talk about forgiveness. Oh my goodness. We got about 3 minutes left. Forgiveness is a huge topic. When it comes to forgiving, you find that there are some people that maybe that one person did something to them. Okay, let me ask this question. How in the world can a person forgive someone if they have deliberately killed or murdered, really, because it's not, when it's deliberate, it's a murder, murdered your closest person to you, whether it be your spouse or your child or your parent?
I got a short answer for that.
How do you forgive? You have a short answer? Really? You? Okay, short answer. We got what, 30 seconds? Say, go.
If you do not forgive and you live your life out of anger or within that anger, you're going to murder other people yourself, spiritually, mentally. You hurt people.
Yeah.
And so you're going to commit other sins based on your anger because that's leading your life. Now, I'm not telling you to forgive, but you're going to mess up some other stuff because you messed up.
God is not pleased with us because he has forgiven, and that's in scripture. He forgives us all the time. And he expects us to forgive other people. Didn't say forget it, but he is forgiving. That forgiveness is to help yourself as the one who's forgiving. You have to forgive to save yourself, to save your own sanity. When you deliberately do stuff to hurt somebody or act like it's nothing to it, you know, you just blow it off, and the person that you hurt is fuming. That one that's fuming have to forgive you or them or whoever it is so that they can get on with their life and ask the Lord to help them through that, because it is critical. It's hard to forgive somebody that has really taken your closest person away from you forever. That's a tall order to do that. But we are at the end of the show, and I just want to say thank you all for listening. I hope this all-in-one topic was an eye-opener and that you can put some of these things in place in your own life about being all-in-one as it applies to your role in your environment or in your circle. All-in-one is something that we all have. Some of us just don't know what that all is. But Father, we want to thank you, though, nonetheless. We want to thank you for this opportunity, for being who you are in our lives, for guiding us and leading us to talk to different ones who are listening, and our walk, Lord, that you will anoint us continuously so that our walk will match our talk, because it is very, very important to those of us who believe in you and trust you. We want to continue to live for you and to help others along the way. It is our prayer, Lord, and thank you again for this opportunity for yet another show. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right. This has been a broadcast of Awesome Radio 107.5 WECU 1570 on your AM dial. Thank you, and we love you. Look forward to seeing you on